From the crossroads of the Ozarks, it's PID Radio. Welcome. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I am Sharon Gilbert, and we're delighted to welcome you to our barn once again. Lots of things to talk about, but I have to warn you up front. Before we remind you to download our app, I'm going to warn you that this could be shorter than our usual hour-plus blather. For a couple of reasons. One is that the dogs are in the backyard enjoying the wonderful weather out there, so they're fine. But the other thing is that we're running into some technical issues after upgrading to the latest version of macOS. Some programs don't want to work. They're cranky. I get it. I'm cranky.
Raymond!
I know.
Yeah, so we're having to use a workaround today to get the audio where we need it to be.
The workaround tends to be a gigantic file. Sorry if I hurt your feelings, little man. But that's just a fact. So, in the meantime, download our app.
Yes, please. You'll find it at gilberthouse.org/app for iOS, Android, Amazon, Kindle Fire. If you want a TV version, we've also got them for Roku, Apple TV, Google TV, Android TV, even Fire TV.
Wow.
We're on all the TVs.
We're everywhere.
Yes.
We're just
taking over the world one television set, one bite at a time.
Yes, indeed. By the way, speaking of things that are on the app, as far as getting all of our content on that app, you also have a discussion area so where you can go in and ask for prayer requests. And I know many of you right now are in need of prayer because you've had a hurricane go through your area. In fact, some parts of it are still hanging around.
Yeah, Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, all being affected right now. Parts
of Illinois.
Parts of Illinois. Yeah, you're right. Our old stomping grounds are in east central Illinois, southeast Illinois. Yeah. We watched this on the radar over the weekend. It just surged inland at the big bend of the Great Bend of Florida there, but then headed to the north and west instead of curving to the east as they typically do. This happens occasionally, but usually it's with a hurricane that comes up through the Gulf Coast of Louisiana or Texas and then bends to the north and east. We remember when we were back in Indiana and Hurricane Ike came through and really caused a lot of damage in Cincinnati and Dayton.
And I've seen your pictures on Facebook, so I know many of you are dealing with flooding. Your lights are out. You're using your grill to cook. So I just want you to know that the Lord is with you. And if you can get access to the app, then you can let other people know where you are. If you feel like giving that information, say I'm in Tennessee, we have flooding here. Just want you to know that we need a prayer, our lights need to be back on, whatever it is. Just let the world know, everybody in the app know, that you're safe and that you're just praising the Lord that you're safe.
Amen. Yeah.
But maybe you have particular prayer needs still.
Yeah. Our friend John Haller asked for prayer. There's a prophecy conference this weekend in Dayton. It's at Neil Peterson's church.
I know.
Harvest Revival Center outside Dayton in Brookville, Ohio. John Haller, one of the speakers, Patrick Wood, who will be speaking at their Friendship Bible Chapel in Columbus tomorrow, Sunday. John's weekly prophecy updates, by the way, from FBC. You find those on YouTube. In fact, I'll link to that in the show notes because it's really, really well done. His usually hour to hour and a half prophecy update each week is like a long form version of what I try to do on 5 and 10 over the course of a week.
Yeah.
But you get like 5, 10 to 15 minute snippets in 5 and 10. John gives it to you
well, back in the day, you were trying to go longer and longer, and you were good, which is why we called it 5 and 10.
Well, your idea, and it's worked out well. But anyway, highly recommended. And again, John praying asking for prayer because they found a hotel that they were to stay in the Dayton area had no power, and that they were having difficulty finding places with power.
Right.
So
you need power just for simple things like the elevator.
Yes,
you could take the stairs, but I mean, there are a lot of reasons.
That's difficult.
Yep, it is. So we need to pray for him and for the conference, for everyone who's in the path of this storm. I know my niece, the one that we've been praying for, who has cancer. They lost their corn. All of their corn crop was flattened.
Yeah. Being a farmer, and I've thought this for a long time, requires an awful lot of faith. It really does, because you never know when something like this may come along, an early frost, Drought
I
or
know.
a storm like this can just wipe you out in a matter of hours.
And if anyone has an impression of farmers as being rich, no, they're not. They're land rich. They're rich on paper, but the
Right.
fact is, nearly every farmer that I know and knew when I was farming back in Nebraska, they live hand to mouth.
Mm-hmm.
They live paycheck to paycheck. They live, and by that I mean crop to crop, because the only time you make any money is when you sell your crops, or
Right.
you sell your cattle, or whatever it is you're raising. And when you lose an entire, corn crop, that's hard.
Yeah, yeah.
And I bet they're not the only farmers that did.
No, I'm sure. A lot of farmers in the path of that storm are going to be assessing their losses in the days to come. So pray for them because,
Pray they have crop insurance.
well, that's exactly right. Crop insurance
It's
is a
expensive,
necessity,
which is
but
why
it
a
is
lot of farmers
expensive.
don't get it.
Yep. So there's that going on. The other big news from a global perspective is that we woke up this morning to news that, and this was speculated yesterday, and it was confirmed today by Hezbollah's television station, that the Secretary General of Hezbollah, its founder, the leader for the last 32 years, Hassan Nasrallah, is dead.
Isn't that amazing?
This is huge. This is a game changer. I mean, you think about this. In the last 2 months, since the end of July, when Ismail Haniyeh, the leader of Hamas, was killed in a bomb blast in Tehran, presumably by Israel. Israel's not claimed official credit or responsibility, I should say, for that, but it's a pretty safe bet. There have been stories that have come out explaining how the Mossad was able to insert the explosive devices into the safe house used by guests of the Iranian regime. This was an IRGC, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps safe house in Tehran. So Haniyeh was taken out, the leader of Hamas. Over the last couple of weeks, of the organizational chart of Hezbollah's security or military command, 10 of the 11, including the leader, Nasrallah, are now dead.
Yes. Also, we just got confirmation, we being those of us who are reading the news, got confirmation from the IDF that the second in command for the IRGC was also taken out
Yeah.
yesterday.
His name is, Abbas. And I
Sorry, I don't have it in front of me because I don't have Telegram on this device.
yeah. I do, but I don't have that story up.
Oh, well, I shared it on my...
Abbas Nilfurushan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Abbas Nilfurushan. He was the commander of the Quds force in Lebanon. So he was also eliminated in that strike in a suburb of Beirut on Friday. According to Israeli media, some 80 to 85 bunker busters were used. These are 2,000 to 4,000 pound bombs, high explosives, specifically designed to go after hardened underground bunkers.
They go down and then they explode again. So I think that there's a second charge in there or something, but they make their way into the bunker and then explode.
Yeah. So not only has Israel decapitated the leadership of Hezbollah, it's also striking a blow against Iran's direct command in Israel. And remember, this is just a couple of weeks after the exploding pagers and the exploding walkie-talkies.
This is a long plan.
Yeah. That, according to sources in the media, was a 15-year plan that had been worked. The fact that Israel has been able to eliminate so many senior commanders of Hezbollah in such a short period of time suggests that they've had the intelligence on these guys for a long time, and that they could have done this almost at any point in the last however many years.
They have waited until they had to. In other words, they did not do this preemptively.
Right.
Hezbollah started the fight.
Yeah.
They waded in after the Hamas attack on October 7, and we're coming up on that 1-year anniversary.
Right.
I think that Israel wants to get this done before that anniversary.
Yes. The focus of the fight has shifted over the last few weeks from Gaza to the north, to Hezbollah. When we were in Israel back in May, part of our solidarity mission, we saw firsthand in Jerusalem, which was very secure. We didn't have any alarms, sirens, warnings in Jerusalem.
None.
They don't want to hit Jerusalem because Jerusalem is a holy site in Islam, and they're supposed to, in their religion, eschatology, Isa, their conception of Jesus, turns over control of the world to the Mahdi in Jerusalem. And so if you turn Jerusalem into a smoking crater, which I remember conservative talk show hosts years ago talking about when Mahmoud Ahmadinejad was the president of Iran. They want to nuke Jerusalem. No, they really don't, because that's really important to their religion.
I think he did.
He might have, and that's probably
because he
one
was
reason
crazy and still is.
Why he was not approved as a candidate by Ayatollah Khomeini in the recent elections. But they are, they've lost so many senior commanders, both Hezbollah, Hamas, and now even Iran. As of this morning, it's being reported by Iranian media that Ayatollah Khomeini has been removed to a secure facility with heightened security around him, the IRGC, protecting him, because apparently they're concerned that Israel is going to try to take out the Ayatollah. Now, I don't think they're going to do that. But
they've struck inside Iran before.
They have, and they've shown that they can do it. So this is really a game changer. What this means for Lebanon and for Israel, I don't know. The focus of the war has shifted from the south to the north. This morning, the IDF announcing that it is assessed that Hamas is essentially done as an organized military force. It's now a guerrilla and terrorist organization. In other words, it can't put soldiers in the field, which it never really tried to do anyway. It was always striking from holes like a deadly game of whack-a-mole with their tunnels underneath Gaza. But at this point, their command and control structure has been so smashed that they're reduced to relatively minor, still deadly, but relatively minor attacks, terror attacks. They don't have a brigade force of soldiers that they can put in the field. So the IDF has been calling up reserves and preparing them for a ground operation in the north, which the commander of the northern forces in Israel has said that they're preparing to do. This led to some conflict over the last couple of weeks. Some of the politics going on in Israel. We in the West have this idea, I think, that Benjamin Netanyahu's got an iron grip on the Israeli government, and that just isn't true. Our friends in Israel, who are political watchers, observers, tell us that he's kind of isolated there in the same way Trump was isolated in Washington, D.C. The deep state in Israel doesn't like Netanyahu any more than America's deep state likes Trump.
No, not at all.
He was educated in the U.S., so from an Israeli standpoint, that means he's an outsider, and they only tell him what they want him to know, just as in the United States, corporate media running stories praising generals from the Pentagon who said, we didn't tell Trump everything because we considered him a threat to national security. I'm sorry, that's borderline treasonous. But that's the situation that Netanyahu is in. So there's been some conflict between Netanyahu and his defense minister, Yoav Gallant. And there were reports that Gallant was going to be fired and replaced by Gideon Sa'ar, who's a conservative, but he's a member of the opposition. He's a conservative, but he doesn't like Netanyahu either. But when things started heating up with Hezbollah, Sa'ar said, okay, I'm not going to take the job, because he didn't want to make the politics a focus at a time when the soldiers, the troops, needed to be focusing on their jobs. Mm-hmm. So, kudos to Sa'ar for that. I hope that he can come to an agreement and an alliance with Netanyahu.
I'm raising my hand because it's so tempting, because you and I are both news junkies. Mm-hmm. And we love to, for whatever reason, we have been wired to want to understand the connections geopolitically. You especially, because you did debate.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I was asked to be on the debate team, but I couldn't because I lived too far and I wasn't able to get a ride. Oh. Yeah, I was asked to join it. I don't regret not doing debate. I really don't. I'm not one to do that. But I think Psalm 121 is important because we need to look at the theopolitics behind this. So this is the ESV. a song of ascents. I will lift my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from Yahweh, who made heaven and earth. He will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. Behold, he who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. I'm going to stop for a minute to explain that. The rising and dying gods were asleep half the year.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
This is a deity. This is your God. This is your creator. This is the only one who's always awake and always sees. He sees everything. He is omnipresent. He is omniscient. He who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. Verse 5, Yahweh is your keeper. Yahweh is your shade on your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. These are deities.
Yes, Shamash and Yarik.
Yahweh will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. Yahweh will keep your going out and your coming in from this time forth and forevermore. That is a wonderful psalm for all of us, but especially for those living in Israel right now.
Yeah.
Because it's tempting to credit the IDF.
Right.
Tempting to credit Netanyahu. Tempting to credit anyone but Yahweh.
Right.
He's the one protecting Israel.
Yeah. I think there are quite a few in Israel who recognize that. We as Christians, and we in the West, where we tend to be secular, even those of us who follow Jesus Christ, it's tough.
So easy to forget.
It's tough to overcome that early conditioning that we have been raised in a scientistic culture. And we need to look, as you say, at the theopolitics, the supernatural, the principalities and powers behind the scenes, because really this is what this war is all about. In fact, on the Unraveling Revelation episode that comes up this week, it drops on, as the kids say, it drops Monday morning at 9. The episode will be, premieres. There we go. Premieres.
Old-fashioned word.
Monday morning at 9, we talk about prophecies against Tyre and Gaza. Now, these were prophecies that were certainly fulfilled when the Assyrians came in and destroyed much of the Levant, took the Philistines out, took out most of Phoenicia, although they never conquered the city of Tyre itself, but a lot of its holdings on land. Tyre was situated just off the coast on a causeway that was really easy to defend. The Assyrians didn't have a navy where they could assault it from the seaward side.
Yeah, there are cities that once were on the land that are under the water now.
Right. But so these prophecies had a fulfillment in the 8th century BC. The northern kingdom of Israel, the capital city of Samaria, taken by the Assyrians in 722 BC. So those prophecies had a fulfillment, but then there may also be a future fulfillment.
I agree. I think already, but not yet. And I think if you look back, it seems like the first fulfillment, it says that prophet is a true prophet. It came to pass. But that second one, it's like the first one was the tiny precursor earthquake. And the second fulfillment, which we haven't gotten to yet, that's the biggie.
The chief gods of those areas, the chief god of Tyre, of course, the head of the pantheon for the Phoenicians was the storm god Baal, but the chief god of the city was Melkart, or Hercules. Different names, same entity.
Who was traveling part of the time.
Right, rising and dying. But the chief god of Gaza, of the Philistines, was Dagon. We know from the time of the Judges, but Dagon was just another name for El, father god of the Canaanites, of Enlil, of the Akkadians and Babylonians, of Milcom, i.e. Molech, of the Ammonites. And we know that this continued well into the Christian era because, Marduk was the name under which he was worshipped in the Christian era. It wasn't until the Persians came in the 6th century A.D. that that Marna's reign in Gaza ended. But I think territorially speaking, he's still the god of that region.
He controls through his kids who are demons.
So you got these areas that have long been under the control of, or I want to call them the territorial princes or the areas that were under the control of these entities.
The tribal princes,
Yeah,
if you want
El,
to say that.
Milcom, Molech, Baal, and this demigod demonic spirit, Hercules, that's what he was, that are still fighting against the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob for control of the land that he said would be his forever.
Right, because that is not only the land the Lord promised, and so they want to break his promise for him, but also it's the site in Jerusalem. It's the divine assembly. It's the site of the Lord's throne. Yahweh's throne is there.
Yes.
That is ground zero, as Pastor Carl Gallup
Psalm
says.
132, beginning at verse 13. For Yahweh has chosen Zion. He has desired it for his dwelling place. This is my resting place forever. Here I will dwell, for I have desired it.
Where does he rest? It's when the Lord comes back, our Lord Jesus Christ as Messiah, and he reigns from Jerusalem. He sits down.
Yeah. And a day is coming when Michael stands up.
Oh, that day's coming.
Yeah.
That day is coming because Michael is the prince of Israel. And he is so far, I don't think he's yet in the fight, but he's going to get there. You better believe that he is going to be called in. There's a spiritual war going all around us. We just cannot see into that realm.
Yeah.
I think if we could, we'd be just
terrified.
Never leave our home.
We're not equipped to handle it.
Yeah.
Which is why so many can be fooled by angels that appear to be so beautiful.
Oh, I know.
Even Satan appears as an angel of light.
I know. Well, those of you who are waiting on book 9 of the Red Wing Saga, I'll give you a little hint. Right now, I'm working on it. I am working on it. My eyes make it such that I can't, my eye problems make it such that I can only work for a short period each day. But I am currently writing a conversation between Charles and Satan.
That should be really, really
Yep, Satan
interesting.
Finally decides he's going to show up.
Yeah.
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 He sits, I see Satan, who is the God of this world. And I see him as having a massive assembly. He's the one everybody has to go to. And can we do this, do you think? Because, we know you're God of this world, so we have to. He's the God of gods, King of kings, Lord of lords, in the rebellious realm, in the infernal realm. He is not the true one. He's the imitation.
Exactly. Yeah. I was going to rabbit trail, but I'm not going to go there.
Well, it's easy to do.
Yeah. Drag us into a conversation that we really don't need to.
Well, we talk about some of this in Veneration. We get into it in the Gates of Hell to a certain extent, which just came out. And you can buy it through the Gilbert House store, by the way.
Yes, it's not officially released at Amazon until October 15th. But if you want to get our new book, it is available right now in our store. And
we have limited boxes.
Yeah.
Just so you know. So it's first come, first served.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep going back to the warehouse and getting more if we need to.
I have no idea how many they're willing to let us have. I don't know how many they have.
Don't know. But again, Amazon's going to release it October 15th. But hey, we've got copies here, so you can get it at our store. And if you want to hold off, there'll be a special offer. We will tell you about that. Well, I guess we could because it's going to go live this coming week.
Special offer for October.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
The people who've just
after
bought
the
the book are going to go, what? But you guys got it first, so see.
Yeah, you were the first ones out.
You were the first ones in. By the way, if you have read the book or even listened to the book or read it on Kindle, because I think the Kindle and the Audible versions are already available, please go to Amazon and review it because we've only got 1 or 2 reviews, and they're not very nice. I understand people. You're welcome to say whatever you want to, but we would love to. Well, it's not vanity, trust me. It's just that Amazon tends to recommend books that have higher ratings.
Right.
And we would love to reach outside the choir.
And there are some people who seem to target anything coming out from Defender Publishing. Tom used to get this a lot, Tom Horn.
Every
but
time.
Carl gets it.
We've never had it hit us, so hey.
Right. Thankfully for that, yeah.
happy to be in the Tom Horn, family of those who've been targeted.
So, you can find it, and it is available now. And we've heard from people who have listened to the Audible edition. And thank you for that. This is something Defender Publishing is really working hard to do right now, and getting the old catalog. Giants, Gods, and Dragons is available now. Second Coming of Saturn is in process. And Veneration will be next.
Yeah, they've got a bunch of them.
Right.
And our books are challenging. The books that Derek and I write, they have a lot of very old words in them that don't get spoken anymore.
And a lot of Hebrew and a lot of Akkadian and some Sumerian.
It's difficult. Lots of really bad stuff. So I feel sorry for anybody who has to read those books.
The narrator that we got for Giants, Gods, and Dragons, wonderful. And he's working on the Second Coming of Saturn right now. I would go through and he would have questions. And so we put together a spreadsheet of pronunciations of old deities.
Over 1,000.
600 is now.
I thought you said there
it's
were
up to 600.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's still a lot.
That's still a lot.
But the good news is that he's got that now as reference that he can use for future books. So that's good.
And he's going to write his own book, How to Pronounce Gilbert Words.
So, we've had to learn more about pronouncing Sumerian and Akkadian than I ever thought would be needed.
We miss the late Michael Heiser every day, but especially when it comes to things like that.
So anyway, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. By the way, you'll find that phrase in Psalm 122, the one that follows the one Sharon read, Psalm 121, because the IDF has called up 2 reserve brigades, the 6th and the 228th, according to Israel National News, to prepare for what might have to happen in southern Lebanon.
There may well be a retaliation from Iran.
True. Yeah. And as of this recording, Hezbollah is continuing to launch rockets into northern Israel.
And Yemen contends to.
Yeah, 2 hours ago.
Continues. Yeah. One of the things that I read this morning was that one of the IDF or the Air Force, or IAF, one of their missions was to take out the capability of Hezbollah to target ships, the maritime missiles.
Yeah, they had some Iranian-produced or designed precision air surface-to-sea missiles that posed a threat to not just international shipping, but also to the natural gas platforms out there in the Eastern Mediterranean.
Yes, the Leviathan field is out there.
Right.
Interesting name.
It is. There's a Tamar field out there as well. But this gets back to what we were discussing, we've talked about previously with Hamas, and how Hamas could have developed Gaza into a beautiful garden spot. I mean, a vacation spot on the Mediterranean. The climate is beautiful. They got wonderful beaches there. And with all the money that flowed into Gaza since 2005 when Israel pulled out, but instead they used it to turn it into an armed camp.
It is not only Hamas. It's any terrorist organization that runs a people group.
Yeah.
Runs a region. We see it all over the world. They take the money that the West, it's often the West, that they get from other countries, and instead of using it to help their people, the corrupt individuals who work with the terrorists spend it on themselves, or they spend it on weaponry to continue their terrorist reign of
So interesting
terror.
is the story this week that Hamas has now said that it's okay with Fatah, which is the Palestinian Authority, or the outgrowth of the Palestine Liberation Organization, the PLO. We'll let them control the Rafah crossing.
No, that's a bad idea. I don't care if they don't like Fatah. Fatah is not a friend to Israel either.
It is not.
Don't put guns in their hands.
No. And this, remember, back in 2007, Hamas rose up and basically massacred all of the Fatah operatives in the Gaza Strip. There was an election in 2006, and there needed to be a power-sharing arrangement between Fatah and Hamas for control of the Palestinian territories, the areas where they are allowed to self-govern to a degree by Israel. They could not come to an agreement, so Hamas basically killed all the Fatah operatives in Gaza, and there's not been an election, a national election for Palestinian Arabs since 2006. So when Greta Thunberg is out there marching with a bullhorn, show me what democracy looks like. It's like maybe show the Palestinian Arabs, because they don't have it. They've never had it. This is so ridiculous. Well,
we're still recording, right?
We are still recording,
okay.
And we need to take a break. And, much more to talk about, because while this is going on, there's the Japanese and the Chinese are getting kind of...
playing tag.
Yeah. More PID radio ahead. It's time for back to school, and we have a special offer in September at the Gilbert House store.
Back to school, it's impossible to believe. Where did the year go? Well, October is also approaching, so we have a deal for you. $35 only plus shipping and handling will get you 2 amazing books and a CD, which is interviews with Dr. Michael Heiser.
Preparing you for All Hallows Eve, the month of October, when we begin to think about the spirit realm, our book Veneration, which takes a deep dive into the cult of the Nephilim around ancient Israel, the source of the demons that plague the world to this day.
And also a wonderful book by our friend Vicki Joy Anderson, They Only Come Out at Night. This is your manual for spiritual warfare. This should be in your church library.
Those 2 books plus a 7-hour audio CD with Dr. Michael S. Heiser discussing the unseen realm. These 2 books plus the CD, just $35 plus shipping and handling only at gilberthouse.org/store. Welcome back to PID Radio. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and even though we have had to cancel our Solidarity tour that was scheduled for November of this year, we are still planning to go to Israel next spring. So if you're interested in traveling with us, with Dr. Jed Burton, sorry. Brain just went in 2 different directions at the same time. I had 4 names in my head, and I had to bounce from one to another.
Like the Three Stooges trying to get through a doorway all at the same time.
That's exactly what it was. Timothy Alberino, Doug Van Dorn, Judd Burton, Derek Gilbert.
What?
Playing the part of Brian Godawa, of course, is
Tim Alberino.
Yeah. So it's that quartet. You.
And you.
Well, I guess I'm a quintet.
And we hope you join us so that we can show you why we're so excited about visiting Israel. Ground zero, as Carl Gallups calls it, in this spiritual war, this supernatural war. We pray the security situation is restored to where this is possible come next March.
If for some reason a few months out it looks like there's still problems, we will let you know, and we will reschedule.
And as we had to do during the lockdowns, we had to reschedule 4 times. And there were people
we still went.
Yeah, and there were people who couldn't accommodate the new dates, but Lipkin Tours, very honorable. If you cannot accommodate the new dates, they will refund your deposit in full.
Absolutely.
So you're not risking anything by putting down a deposit to reserve your spot.
And we had originally planned an extra trip to Turkey following that, but we have now had to cancel that because there are problems between Turkey and Israel. If you fly in from Israel, you may or may not get a visa to stay there. So,
yeah, little dicey
or get
at the
permission.
moment.
It's kind of dicey, so we just decided we're not going to even take the chance. There are some who say, not a problem at all. The wonderful people at Sojourn Tours in Turkey said, it might be a problem, so you're probably smart to just put it off for now.
Yeah. So that's the plan. We'll do that at some point in the future because we do want to visit Göbekli Tepe,
so want to go
Haran, and some of the other archaeological sites.
What you and I might have to do is just fly to some other country.
Yeah.
Like England. Some country that's friendly to Turkey.
Go to Sardinia. Visit the tombs of the giants and then go to Turkey from there. Yeah. So anyway, information on our tours always at gilberthouse.org/travel.
Let's see. Where were we?
Well, Japanese warship cruised through the Taiwan Strait for the first time ever. This is a so-called freedom of navigation maneuver. The Japanese, they've got a warship. Now, after
World War II. Freedom of navigation maneuver.
That's what they call
that.
it. Yeah, that's what they call it.
We're going to go through this strait that China claims is theirs, and if you don't bomb us, then, it's fine.
We're just going to keep swinging our arms.
It's our territory.
And if you walk into my fist, that's your problem.
It's like Glory. I'm going to take over Grace's spot on the couch. And if Grace doesn't come over and bite me, then it's mine.
Yeah.
And even if she does, it's still mine.
U.S. has been doing this for a while with China, sailing our destroyers through there as what they call freedom of navigation. These are international waters, and we're going to prove it.
Putin did it in the very early days of the Ukraine war. He sailed past the UK.
Right, through the English Channel.
Yeah, there were several of his ships that did that.
It's basically just posturing, but this comes a week after a Chinese aircraft carrier sailed between two Japanese islands near Taiwan for the first time, accompanied by two destroyers. So you've got the Japanese and the Chinese who've got a long history of antagonism. I mean, years and years back when the Chinese emperors were powerful, they would dominate Korea, Japan. Obviously, things flipped in the 20th century as Japan rose to become a world power, defeating Russia in a war, 1905, taking part in World War I. They felt like they were dissed after World War I. They weren't really taken seriously by the Western powers, the UK and the United States. Oh, yeah, little Asian guys, how cute. Well,
but they had previously been in a war with Russia.
Exactly, and defeated the Russians.
I mean, so weakened Russia.
Yep. When the 1930s came and Japan began its expansion into China, there's a lot of antagonism that goes back, long memories there. China still considers the century from about the mid-19th century to about 1945, they call the century of shame. They look at the 21st century as the century of China, just as the 20th was the century of the United States.
Yes, and of course, if you didn't say this, and forgive me if you did, Japan did invade Manchuria in the early 1900s. And I doubt that China, they remember that.
They do. So these actions by Japan and China do not bode well, and it makes you wonder if the neocons who've been pushing to try to create an Asian version of NATO with Japan as part of it are prodding allies within the Japanese government to get antagonistic towards China. With China insisting that it's going to reintegrate Taiwan into the mainland at some point, and based on what I've seen about war games conducted by think tanks here in the United States, just as the United States, we've got this mindset since 1945 that we are the dominant superpower. We can project our military influence wherever we want. Well, bear in mind, even though the corporate media isn't really reporting it here, we've essentially lost control of the Red Sea to Yemen. I mean, anytime you've got a particular power of a particular type. Okay, we've got these aircraft carriers that are really powerful, but they've got also inherent disadvantages. It's a big floating target with 5,000 men on board that's really vulnerable to new hypersonic missiles.
Yes.
So we've not been able to secure the passageway into the Red Sea from this ragtag bunch that runs this impoverished nation at the southern tip of the Arabian Peninsula. The same is true with, and look, military minds all over the world are watching this and going, okay, we can't afford to build these massive aircraft carriers, but we can build these missiles. So the Chinese, the Russians, North Koreans, they're taking note of this.
There was a time when if you had the strongest Navy, you were the strongest nation.
Right.
Those days are gone.
Yeah, this is not this is not the 19th century. We are not the United Kingdom, and we don't have an Admiral Nelson anywhere, Lord Nelson. So the war games that have been done in Eastern Europe and regarding an invasion of Taiwan consistently show that the United States really is not able to defend. If Russia wanted to invade Eastern Europe, we would really have a difficult time defending Eastern Europe unless we wanted to start throwing nukes back and forth. And then it's like everybody loses. It's like, we're not going to win, so we're just going to flip over the game and all the pieces get broken.
And about every 2 months we get, stories out of Russia that, Putin plans to, he's okay, I could nuke them. Should I nuke them? What do you think, guys?
He's, talking about the use of tactical nuclear weapons.
Well, he's reported as talking about it. I have no idea if he is or not.
Well, there are people who live in that part of the world. We talked with Rick Renner.
Yep, who lives in Moscow.
Lives in Moscow, has lived there for several decades, and he says, look, what we see in the corporate media here in the West about Russia is just not true.
Well, it's just like what they see over there about us. Maybe not true, too. I mean, the propaganda is a thing.
Yeah, same as we've seen firsthand with the media reporting on Israel. When we come back over here and it's like, that's not at all what we saw when we were there.
Well, we try to get our news about Israel from Israelis who live there. Israelis we know personally.
Right. So there's this going on in the Asia Pacific region, which we just pray cooler heads prevail. And for some reason, these neocons who just seem to have this... It's illogical, so I'm assuming it's spiritual need to try to control the world, trying to push Japan into a conflict with China because they somehow think that we could take China if China decided to go after Japan and or Taiwan. Taiwan, look, if China wanted it, they could take it. And I don't think China wants to destroy Taiwan because that's where all the plants making chips, microprocessors. They just want to control it. They want to control it, right.
And they want to make sure that we can't have access to it.
Yeah,
it's one reason that a lot of the activity in the tech community that was taking place on Taiwan has now been moved to India and the Philippines and where else?
South Korea.
South Korea. South Korea. Oh, there's another place that constantly has to worry about what's going to happen because there's a crazy guy up north and it's not Santa Claus.
It's like, look, we in the United States, we could be building these things. Why aren't we? Oh, it's too expensive. American workers is like, okay. But that leads to another story, which we've talked about previously, the whole Springfield, Ohio thing, Charleroi, Pennsylvania thing. Another story came out this week. United Food and Commercial Workers Union urging federal, state, and local authorities to investigate a meat processing plant in Greeley, Colorado, for alleged human trafficking in bringing Haitian migrants to Colorado to work in the meatpacking plant. This is the union.
Sorry, my brain was going in some really interesting directions with that story. Sorry. I was one of the performers in Sweeney Todd. Yeah, I know. Let's pray nothing like that is going on.
Yeah. According to the media report from the, this is from the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, UFCW, Local 7 members who work at the JBS plant in Greeley, outlined in detail below, includes, and I'm quoting now from the union's press release, includes numerous cases of abusive practices both within and outside of the workplace, including management-led human trafficking utilizing the social media platform TikTok, charging immigrant workers for company-provided rent in squalor conditions.
That's what's going on in the UK. It is mostly, is it Latvians? No. Where are they mainly coming from? But it's TikTok that's being used.
Albania?
Albania, thank you very much. TikTok is being used to tell them, go here, and you only have to pay a certain amount, but once you get here, you get it all back, and you'll live for free, and we'll take care of you, and we'll make sure you get citizenship. None of that happens. Human trafficking is why those boats are crossing the channel every day.
Yep, and why it's being allowed.
And it's why they're crossing our border every day.
Right. I mean, let's be clear. I hate that phrase because politicians use it all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Let's
they're
be
never clear.
When they say that, they're immediately going to obfuscate. The British government.
Obfuscation. That's my motto. Avoid.
Eschew obfuscation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Eschew,
okay.
Or eschew. Eschew.
Or just say, be clear.
Be clear.
God bless you. Oh, Christian nationalism. Oh, no. According to the UFCW, as many as 500 or more workers from Haiti and Benin in the country legally through work visas or asylum may have been subject to potential crimes, workplace violations. The company knew about the tactics, paid for workers to live in a local motel in squalor conditions, turning a blind eye until they were questioned by the press.
Okay, if I were going to put on my conspiracy theory hat right now, and we need to stop soon, I would ask myself, is it possible that there are those, after the many natural disasters that have taken place in Haiti in the last few decades, those who said that they were raising money to help the local Haitian people, and somehow the local Haitian people never got helped, might benefit from someone who has never gotten help and could therefore become a help to you, if you know what I mean. Yeah, that's really disturbing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
To think that all of this may have been planned. Spiritually speaking, it has been. It's about a number of things. It's about maintaining their hold on those who want more. By that I mean power. Money often leads to power, and power leads to money. I mean, but basically, it's power, and it also helps move tribal groups around. So, say you are a spirit, maybe a lower level spirit who wants to gain territory in the Southwest United States. You move the people that worship you and have an attachment with you to that area. And that allows you a stronger foothold to battle the local deity.
Yeah. It's very interesting thought. Again, I did a program on this with Judd Burton on View from the Bunker probably a couple of years ago. On bringing gods with you. You know, people who are migrants are coming in and they're bringing their gods with them. Might
I challenge you on one of your Iron and Myth episodes? You've discussed so many things. Finally got to Mount Hermon.
Yeah.
Episode 33, which is absolutely the right one.
Because it's on the 33rd.
Back in the day it was on 33.
Yep.
But it has since moved because everything was moved by mankind. We don't like this longitude. Let's move it. Why don't you guys talk about theopolitics? Not just in the Bible, but through history as we see it now. Taking, pulling back the veil and seeing what's really going on. That moment in The Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
I'll look at...
I want to see the creature behind the curtain.
I will look at the topics we've covered over the past 33 episodes. Number 34, we're going to talk about the overlap between Greco-Roman mythology, that word in air quotes, and the Bible. So that should be really interesting.
Well, most of these episodes are going to touch on it in some way, but when you actually say, okay, let's play a spiritual game of Risk. Let's look at how they're playing it, the little conferences they're having, the meetings they have. It's not the G20, it's the, something else 20, the D20, the demonic 20.
I was thinking that very thing, yeah.
But I'm sure that they do have councils. We see in the Old Testament the Lord holds councils.
Well, yeah, and there is a possibility that Psalm 82 actually depicts one of those councils.
And the Lord shows up in it.
Right. Psalm 82 in the ESV reads, verse 1, God has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment. Now, the term translated divine council in Hebrew is Adat El, which can also be translated, and this is how the Net Bible translators render it, God stands in the assembly of El.
And I think that's the correct way to do it. I believe that Yahweh showed up in the chief enemy's council room.
Molech.
Yes, and said, guess what? Here's what's going to happen to all of you.
Yeah. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment. I think that Psalm 82, this courtroom scene, essentially, where God passes judgment, says, like, men, you shall die.
Yes, and fall like any prince.
This is possibly when the Lord passed judgment over...
You're barking.
Oh, sounds like we've got a mail delivery, or maybe UPS.
Could be. Yeah. I'll go check. Keep talking.
Okay. This is a... possibly a description of what happened when God passed judgment on the Watchers. As I argue in the second coming of Saturn, Molech, Milcom, El, Enlil, FedEx. That's the uninterrupted power supply for the video editing computer inside the house. It is possible that this is when God passed judgment on the rebellious Watchers. In the second coming of Saturn, I argued that Milcom, Molech, El of the Canaanites was Shemiyaza from Genesis chapter 6. So this scene in Psalm 82, God taking his place in the divine council, or the council of El, which would make it the infernal council, is how that scene played out. Speculation? Don't know, not a theological hill on which to die, but it certainly is God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Yahweh, demonstrating his authority over these lesser Elohim, the created beings that he spoke into existence, and saying, look, I delegated this responsibility to you to administer this creation, and you have ruled unjustly. That's verse 2. How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? And for that they were deemed unworthy, and said that, okay, you are gods, all of you, sons of the Most High, but like men you shall die. So that is your punishment.
You know, I'll put my earbuds in so I can hear what I'm saying. But
best alarm system on the planet.
Aren't
Grace
they, though?
and Glory, yes.
Oh, they're so good. By the way, there's a Grace and Glory meme, both of them, at Facebook, so you want to check that out.
Yeah.
It's interesting that the Lord shows up, because in the book of Enoch, First Enoch, which we're going to be continuing our study of tomorrow morning, at the last Sunday of every month, we're going to be doing that on Gilbert House Fellowship, that the watchers ask Enoch if he could please go speak to the Lord, because he won't talk to them directly. Can you go and ask him to please come here and talk to us? Yeah,
which suggests that maybe Psalm 82 is, I was speculating.
I know, exactly. Yeah. It's because he told Enoch, no, you can go and you can tell them this.
Yeah.
And I think a point in time comes, and this could be their council. Who knows when they're in Tartarus?
True.
And the Council of El may mean he's there. It may not mean he's there. He may have a proxy sitting in for him. You know, Satan. Who knows?
Yeah.
But someone's sitting in for him. But the point is, it's called his council still, even though he's in Tartarus.
.L. Good point.
Yes.
Good point.
Which I think is very interesting. You need to read The Second Coming of Saturn, Derek's book. He gets into very important imagery. But he shows up and says, okay, here's what you get when I come personally.
Yeah. Doom.
Mm-hmm.
Sentence has been passed, has been decreed. It's we're just waiting for the judgment to be carried out.
Because they haven't died like men yet.
That's true. Right.
Yeah. Well, sadly, we need to wrap this up.
Got a question to address,
let's do
which
that.
we will do. These questions come in through our app, the Gilbert House app.
Blow my nose really quickly.
Which you can get at gilberthouse.org/app. Also, pidradio.com/app. If you're at the podcast website, you can find it there. Let's see. Let us look at this one about Revelation 6. This is from Deb.
Hi, Deb.
She asks about the fourth seal with the pale horse. Mm-hmm. And this is something you've done presentations about.
I have written about it. I've talked about it.
It says, a quarter of the earth will be killed from pestilence, famine, and the beasts of the earth. Well, actually, it says it's got power over a quarter of the earth, not necessarily that a quarter of the earth.
That is the thing.
I looked this up, actually. When you look at the percentage of land on Earth relative to ocean, it's about a quarter of the Earth is covered with land.
It's interesting that this is Thanatos, and death itself is the last enemy that is to be conquered, you might say, because death itself is also Mot.
Yes. A Canaanite form of Thanatos.
Yes.
It says, a quarter of the earth will be killed from pestilence, famine, and the beasts of the earth. I have wondered if these beasts might be cryptids, such as Dogman, Bigfoot, Rakes, Raikes. Not familiar with Rakes.
Me neither.
Rather than something like bears, lions, wolves, etc. Any opinion on this? Thank you.
I have taught that it could be normal animals, beasts, but it also could be tiny beasts. The word there is,
Therion.
Therion, thank you very much, which is a diminutive form of the word, and it implies something smaller. Now, I'd say it's both, actually. I'd say it's probably animals who would... Think about it now. Think about how many animals are on the loose. When you get warfare in an area, when you get natural disasters in an area, and I'll get to the cryptids in a minute, but just natural animals themselves, zoos are often emptied. For whatever reason, the animals can suddenly get out, and they are not happy. This happened in Ukraine. A lot of animals got out, and there were people who went in to help them. But if you have spiritually driven animals, animals who are possessed, you might say, or used by the fallen realm, or used by Thanatos, then, because this implies this is one of his weapons. Well, she's just still barking at
I think there's another delivery taking place out there, in another truck.
Oh.
So we got FedEx. This could be UPS.
Yeah, it could be, or something else. But FedEx
Amazon
brought the UPS.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, the uninterrupted power supply. Yeah.
So, yes, I think it's very possible that it's literal animals possibly being used by death itself because it is one of his weapons. But the idea of cryptids, I had never considered. I think that's worthy of research.
Yeah.
Because, and this is, I believe cryptids, those things that, they're called that because they're hidden. This idea of hybrids or unusual sort of pre-flood animals that are human-animal hybrids that are on the loose, they may be the result, we'll say they exist, we'll just assume that. They may be the result of human experimentation or that can get out of a lab, just like anything that humans experiment, gain of function. Or they could be spirit entities that take the form of an animal hybrid. I believe that happens all the time. The demons who inhabit our earth, the spirits of the fallen giants, they have a craving to be in a vehicle of some kind. They have some kind of matter around it, have a form, have a shape. But it's possible also that they inherited their father's ability to take on different forms. As you mentioned earlier, Satan himself can appear as an angel of light. He can change his appearance. When angels were sent by the Lord in the Old Testament, they looked like men. But they really must have had an unusual look for men, either really tall or just perfect or whatever, because Abraham knew that they were angels.
Yeah.
The men of Lot knew that they were angels. So either before that, during that time, mankind was still capable of seeing into the spirit realm, or there's something really unusual about angels who appear to be human. But maybe it's really unusual if they take animal form.
That could well be.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I like what you said, that it does not necessarily mean a quarter of the earth dies.
Right.
He's given power over a quarter of the earth.
Yeah, they were given authority over a fourth of the earth to kill with sword and with famine and with pestilence and by wild beasts of the earth. But
and he's got Hades traveling with him.
Right. Hades followed right behind.
Yeah.
Fanboy.
That is the implication in the verse.
Yeah. So that is a good question. Thank you, Deb. And we will tackle another one tomorrow morning on the Gilbert House
We will,
Fellowship,
maybe even
Bible
two.
Study.
We'll try to get this whole setup out here figured out. Why it's
roll back to OS 14.
Why on earth it was beeping? It was very annoying.
Yeah.
It was every 5 seconds it was beeping.
My bad for upgrading without checking to make sure the Adobe apps were all
apparently
compatible.
It doesn't work with this.
Yeah. We'll figure it out.
We've all done that at some point or another.
So.
But I want to let you know that I've been talking about the armored sheep for some time. Derek has the opening and the lower thirds all worked out. And I've recorded a couple of videos that will probably be put together into the first episode. I don't know what the total time on it, maybe 45 minutes. But I'll try to do these at least once a week, if not more often. And I will warn you up front that this episode, this first episode, when it drops, beware. Because I have no makeup on. Not any. Nada. Nothing. I just trimmed my hair. Yeah. I have issues. I have fibromyalgia and I have issues with doing my hair. Back in the day, I had long hair and it would take me an hour to work with it. So now I keep it as short as possible. About twice a year, I just buzz it down. Then it grows back out to about 2 inches long. And then I get tired of it and I buzz it back down. So my hair is freshly buzzed and no makeup. So beware.
No.
Take care.
You are beautiful, sweetheart.
Honey, seriously, there was a time when I never would have dreamt of doing that, much less appear to you without makeup. But I got to tell you this. My husband has given me the gift of self-confidence because his eyes are my mirror. Seriously, his eyes are my mirror. So regardless of what this almost 72-year-old woman feels like, looks like, I don't look like I'm 20. I never will again. I can't bark like Glory can, but she's out there barking right now. But when I look at you, I feel beautiful.
That's how I see you, sweetheart.
And because I think we need to look on the real person.
Yeah.
The package is going to wear out, but the real person inside just gets younger and younger because we get closer and closer to the Lord.
Amen. That's a beautiful way of putting it.
Yeah, so just, understand that I may occasionally just come on without any makeup because I want you to understand it's our souls, our spirits, our true selves, not the bodies that we're currently riding in. Because we're getting new bodies one day.
Amen.
And we won't need makeup.
Amen to that.
And we will never age. We'll never grow old.
Well, that's a wonderful way of wrapping. Tomorrow night on A View from the Bunker, my guest is senior reporter for Israel 365 News, Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz.
Oh, that's big.
Yeah, he shares, because he lives in the town of Katzrin, which is on the Golan Heights. It's unofficially called the capital of the Golan. It's not officially that, but we've been there several times. We've had falafel and schnitzel. Shawarma in Katzrin. And as if to emphasize what we discussed, because this was just recorded this past Wednesday, right at the end of our conversation, which was about 45 minutes, a little less than an hour, the sirens went off. And, I was just wrapping up saying, thank you. I'll put a link in the show notes, blah, blah, blah. Suddenly, wow. And he says, gotta go. And he jumps up and he runs because, as he'd said during the interview, they get maybe half a minute when the sirens go. And I left things running, and because he'd left his connection open, and in less than 30 seconds, no kidding, you can hear boom, boom, boom in the background. So you will see that at the very end of tomorrow's interview, which will debut at 7 p.m. Central Time.
That's powerful.
You get that on our app, Roku, Apple TV, or at vftv.net. So
but he's okay.
He's okay. Family's okay. He came back afterwards. He said, well, that was close, but it wasn't too bad. It didn't rattle the windows.
Oh.
He said, we've had those where they've come that close. Gosh. So, and this is the reality of life in the North, which is why when we were in Israel back in May, and I don't know if I ever finished that thought, I started down that track, but what we saw was that in our hotel in Jerusalem, all of the people in the hotel, except for us, our group of 9 people, were refugees from communities along the Lebanese border.
Right.
So we pray that situation is changing now. It's just a tragedy that Israel's got to demolish communities that Hezbollah had commandeered to hide weapons in order to make this happen. Until next time, I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and for Grace and Glory in the Backyard. Oh, they stopped barking. Oh, bye-bye, everybody.
PID Radio is produced by Gilbert House and released under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. Follow us online, Twitter @PID Radio, or the PID Radio page at Facebook. Join us each week for our online Bible study, the Gilbert House Fellowship, online at gilberthouse.org.